lane and in the bot lane, depending on your preference. The versatility is extremely strong, and she doesn't really have that many answers right now. Her laning phase isn't the best, but what she contributes later on into the game, even just after a Sheen, is so significant. And with her not being banned away, you would imagine the Giants will look to put priority on the champion.
Yeah, 15 seconds. The Nocturne was the one that got banned. So if Unicorns, if they didn't end up respecting this, this could come back to bite them. But there are other powerful picks. We've seen a few junglers like this Camille make a pretty big impact in 8.11. Let's see if that carries over to 8.12. Giants lock it in.
Interesting that they would choose to prioritize the Camille. She is still a pretty relevant pick in the current meta globally. Primarily, she has been played in that jungle position thanks to her early ability to skirmish, her pretty strong gank setup as well with the long range on her E stun, and also just her early dueling prowess, the true damage that you get on the Q, the bonus attack speed you can get on the E as well, a lot of tools available. But very surprised that Aurelia is falling so low on the priority list in Unicorns, and she's trying to pick themselves up a pretty strong top side already.
Yeah, I like how you talked about the dueling, because this is another thing that Aatrox can do as well. We've seen mixed success with this champion. Remember, of course, still in that pre-rework phase for him, but WhiteKnight will take another crack at it after failing to secure victory in week 1. Unicorns still have some time, though, and they're still going to eschew the Aurelia. It's going to be a Ziggs lock-in.
All right, well, Unicorns right now looking to try and guarantee themselves a bit of priority down in the bottom lane. Here in Europe, we've seen a lot of Heimerdinger and we've seen a fair amount of Ziggs. Those have been the two kind of mages that we've prioritized as having pushing bot lanes that have been the unconventional, now more meta style of champions, and Unicorns want to draft that in early on. Giants, interestingly enough, answering with a Swain, and over in the LCK, we have been seeing a lot of bot lane Swain. Kind of as an answer in terms of good gank setup, especially you have a lot of power at the level 6 mark once he has his ultimate, but of course you have the flexibility once again. You can put it mid lane, you can put it top lane, and that's why these drafts are so complicated in the current meta, because you never really know where anything is going to go.
Yeah, and the Fiddle gets locked in. Now that has been a support pick, but once again, yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to make that guess. However, this is a pretty scary bot lane. You look at that Swain, that Fiddle, there's a lot of CC there too.
There's also a lot of magic damage, and we are expecting right now that the Swain will be going into the mid lane, the Fiddle will be on support, and as an answer, we're going to get a very aggressive playmaking support down the bottom lane with the Pyke. We already saw it last week from Jacktroll and Northscarin, and what we can say for certain is you have a lot of kill threat, a lot of roaming power, and a lot of early game damage. You can look to snowball what is a very early focused meta.
Yeah, we've seen some fun stuff on that brand new champion. I cannot wait to see what Totoro is going to make out of it. Now, we're into ban phase 2. We start off with the Varus being takeaway. That's one of those actual AD carries that has been still surfacing, but he won't get a chance this game.
Priority right now on the Unicorns to try and limit the number of strong bot lanes that can answer the Ziggs. They could consider banning the Heimerdinger themselves, but to be fair, we did not see any unique champions from Steeelback last week. He played the Ezreal and the Lucian. They could look to ban away the Lucian to try and take him off one of his comfort picks and something that does give you a pretty strong laning phase. Kind of force him onto something like an Ezreal so that he goes more towards the scaling option.
Yeah, it's always an option. Now, the Kaisa is also going to be removed. Now, that's a champion that's been very popular, but mostly for that, you know, infamous funnel strat.
Also, Kai'Sa's just a pretty good champion overall. Yeah. While her laning phase isn't the strongest, we've seen, especially over in the LPL, she has been picked down towards the bottom lane. And I think that given her 2-item spike, once you get the Rage Blade, and often we see things like the Nash's Tooth, she can be pretty potent. Now, we are seeing a bit of a mix-up here for the Unicorns of Love. Could this potentially be an Aatrox jungle that we are seeing from the Unicorns with a Mundo up in the top lane?
That's what I was thinking of, because otherwise, where are you going to put the Mundo? Do you want him to be the jungler as a possibility? I know that metas ago that was once a thing, but we'll see. It looks like, however, Giants, they're going to stick to their guns. 2 pistols. In fact, Steeelback goes ahead and locks in the Lucian. And now it's all on the last one for Giants.
But one thing we did glaze over as well was that the Kindred was banned from the side of Giants. 8-12, she did receive some buffs. Interesting that they would look to take that away from Kold, but it just seems that they were not expecting a different jungler to come in, seeing as right now it does look like that role is still up in the air.
Speaking
Giants,
of
though,
different junglers.
Is it in the jungle, though?
I mean, I don't even know, but I'm just excited to see an Udyr.
Oh, we have an Udyr. Wow, I have not seen an Udyr in competitive play in a very long time. I will imagine that our stats team is working hard right now to figure out the last
Crunching
time.
Those numbers.
Could have even been the Flash Bear Slap that we last saw. Unicorns now looking to lock in that final pick.
Yeah, now I know there's been a little bit of buzz about this Sejuani as a champion. It's going to get locked in again. Now, this used to be an old favorite of Kold's, but this is a whole different ballgame, Vedius.
It's a Sejuani mid lane, or is it?
But you got like 25 seconds to figure it out.
Okay. Oh, okay. We've got...
Wait, Ziggs mid?
Okay, yeah.
What is this, season 4?
Let's wait. 20 seconds is when they lock everything in. You would imagine, what we can say for certain, Fiddle support and Pyke support. We're comfortable with those
Lucian AD
ones.
carry.
Yes. We do also have a Lucian on the AD carry or bot lane position. Unicorns have 8 seconds left, but if they want to do any more swaps. To remind people, 8-12 is when Sejuani received a couple of minor buffs. She had a couple of AP ratios added to her. She's overall, her clear speed in the jungle is a little bit greater, and she's a little bit stronger on this patch. It looks like it was an old favorite of Kold, something that he did play a lot of during the last regular season, but it does look like that it will be a Camille top into the Dr. Mundo, and I believe it is an Aatrox mid lane for Exileh going up against the Swain. Very unique, very interesting, something we can talk a lot more about when we get into game.
This is so interesting, and with so many different options. Like, you kind of look at the lineup for Giants and you think, okay, you know, I could actually see this in you know, way pre 8.11, maybe outside of a couple of the crazier things like the Udyr, but the Unicorns really mix things up. The Aatrox going mid, I mean, it is a champion that can get in your face and deal a lot of damage, and that is exactly the type of champion Exileh likes to play, for better or worse. This is going to be a real barn burner, I feel, Vedius.
Unicorns looking to pick themselves up their first win of Summer Split. Giants looking to try and solidify themselves in the league. They didn't have the best performance last week, and a stronger performance here today would be excellent for them. So let's kind of look at some of these more unique picks that we are seeing, Pyra, because we have an Aatrox in the mid lane. Aatrox as a champion, not really that new on the current meta, with the changes to or with the introduction of Conqueror, with small patch changes over time, with Rage Blade as well. Aatrox has just slowly found his place, and right now the Unicorns are saying we want to put it into the mid lane. It does have good potential gank setup. Typically his laning phase is not considered the strongest, because you kind of want to get, you don't really have that much wave clear. So once you complete the Tiamat, that's when you become a little bit more relevant in the lane, and then once you complete the 2 items of what is usually a Titanic Hydra plus the Rage Blade, that's when you start to have a little bit more dueling power. Until then, you're a little bit on the back foot, and I would give the early 2v2 advantage to Giants, especially given that they are running the Udyr in the jungle.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We'll get on the Udyr in just a minute, because I actually wanted to ask you, this kind of goes back to the original point we talked about, Exileh, Kold. They want to be playing together. We want to see Unicorns playing through mid. They did that a bit last week, but we want to see a little more of it. How long is Kold going to have to wait before he can make that happen? Because old Sejuani did take a little while before she could be relevant in the gank department.
Well, I mean, Sejuani as a champion, I feel, can be generally pretty relevant as early as she wants. Typically, you need 2 to 3 levels, ideally. The big thing that she needs to be careful of is clearing through the jungle, because Udyr is a very strong early game skirmish jungler. Typically, I want to say that usually we see the Tiger stance as what most common jungle build in terms of the Udyr. That's the most common one that we usually see. It gives you a lot of early skirmishing power. You trade extremely well. Your jungle clear is slightly slower than the Phoenix, but it's still relatively fast. And you just kind of mow through the jungle with just how much single target DPS that you do have. So Sejuani has to be very careful and respectful of where Udyr is on the map. And you can already see he's moved on towards the Scuttle Crab. He knows that if Sejuani shows up, that he'll be able to successfully win a fight, and now that he's already got the bear stance along with the tiger claws, he should be able to duel and skirmish pretty effectively.
Yeah, Kold inching closer to that half health mark, and it looks like Djoko's going to come in and steal his lunch money here. Going to be a little rough for Kold to try and get back. That's double buffs versus just the blue, as well as the level disadvantage, so Djoko's already off to a flying start. Rest of the map, so far so standard, but it's all going to be about these junglers early game.
And this is exactly what we talked about. Now he is heading around towards the middle lane. Unlikely that he'll be able to secure anything, given how close Exileh is to being underneath his turret. Ooh, that's a fair amount of damage, though. But the last time we did see an Udyr was 882 days ago in the European LCS. I want to say that's like 2.5 years, maybe a little bit longer.
You know, I got a quiz for you then, Betty. Who played it?
Was it Diamond Prox?
No, it was post Diamond Prox.
Okay.
It was spring 2016, if I can jog your memory.
Spring 2016.
Cast your mind back. Not quite 1,000 years, but feels like it.
I honestly cannot remember, Pyra.
All right, I've got the answer for you.
Okay.
It was Trick.
It was
And I believe that was the introduction of the legendary Flash Bear Slap.
I see. Wow. Well, there we are.
Thank you, stats team. I'm going to pretend that I knew that all along.
And while that has all been going on, Djoko has been successfully invading and stealing away. They had priority in the middle lane with Betsy on the Swain against the melee Aatrox. We talked a little bit about his lack of wave clear at early levels. Mundo up in the top lane was also struggling, and that's giving Djoko a lot of freedom to just move towards the enemy jungle and steal away a lot of these early camps. So far, early game, a slight advantage in favor of Giants. But for the Unicorns, things will start to get better once a couple of items come in. The thing about Ziggs is his wave clear isn't that great until he completes the Lost Chapter. He has a little bit of ability power, he has the mana to really back it up, and we talked about the Aatrox, you kind of want those items. And same for the Mundo, once he starts building up his Sunfire Cape, he can be a lot more resilient, he can soak up a lot more damage, he trades a little bit better as well, and just has that extra bit of wave clear. So until that point, Giants will mainly control a lot of the early laning phase and a lot of the priority. And Kold, unfortunately, well, he's looking for a gang mid.
Instantly flashed out by Betsy, but now it's a 2v2, and it looks like Exile's getting yoinked back in. He's taken pretty low, but he's not going to go down just yet. Kold goes on, gets a bit stunned. That's going to be it for now. Looks like even the Pyke's coming up for a roam. Totoro, if he can stay hidden in the shadows, they might just be able to pull off a first blood. Here he goes forward, looking for Betsy. Not able to find him on the hook. Fancy feet from the mid laner of Giants.
And Betsy had no flash, so if the hook did land, there was a huge risk of him losing his life there. But I feel like initially, the whole intent from Kold was to just help Exileh go for another base. He wants to get back. He realizes he doesn't have any health pots, he has taken a decent amount of damage, and Betsy was just TPing into lane, so him trying to back now would be really rough. Having the jungler assistance really just allows him to reset the lane and come back as a slightly happier Demon Lord.
And let's talk a little bit about that mid lane matchup, especially between these two players, because as has been the big story for both these teams, they're so critical to the team's success. And honestly, Betsy, he's been able to do more with less. See Kold, once again, this is why that jungle proximity is a little bit high. Betsy, he's still got no flash. Totoro's coming in. This is a triple team right now. Yoink back there. First blood over to Exileh.
So many things coming into play here. We talked a lot about how when you're playing the Pyke, you have a lot of roaming power. We talked about how when you're on this Aatrox, you have decent gank setup with the knockup, especially on a low mobility mid laner like the Swain. Samux, by him playing the Ziggs, can just hold his own and just safely sit back and wave clear, and Unicorns use that as an opportunity to move around the map and find a successful kill onto the middle lane. First blood going to the Unicorns.
And it's so critical because, as you pointed out, every single lane was not going to be a winning one for them, but it didn't mean that they had to lose it and then lose a lot of their lives. They've just kind of been playing back, waiting for a moment to strike, and the roaming of Totoro paid off, as well as for Kold.
And it's one of those situations where Giants had a lot of control over the early game, but due to just Kold coming in earlier and forcing the flash out from Betsy means that this gank setup is very easy. Totoro lands a very clutch hook there to help secure the kill, gets himself an assist as well. But overall, everything looking pretty good for the Unicorns in the early on, and they just want to keep this proactivity up around the mid lane. It sets up very nicely what you were talking about earlier on, Pyre, where Unicorns found a lot of their success when they played through mid. Now Giants trying to answer in bot.
Well, looks like it. Flash forwards for Nukeslot. They're going to find some damage onto the Ziggs. He's got nowhere to go, and Samux gets deleted off the map, and Steeelback picks up a kill.
You're seeing right now why Fiddle has made his way into the meta. The very fast CC and the effectiveness of it, especially in the early game, means that not only are counter ganks really effective with him, but also just the fact gank setups are very optimal. So he lands the fear, the silence then bounces between two people because the bird, and you end up just being CC'd for an extremely long time. Samux couldn't even flash out of that situation, and Djoko is there to follow up with the damage. So Giants, they're looking to be proactive themselves as well.
Meanwhile, back towards the mid, Exileh doesn't give as good as he gets from Betsy. Still going to require a little bit of assistance from Kold. And, you know, right now, what he said in the pregame interview, how he's going to be the reason to win this game. Well, he's certainly going to be the reason Exileh's looking to win this lane. Only a couple CS down, and that's about to equalize at level 6 now for the Aatrox.
Very much playing through the middle lane as we expected for the Unicorns of Love. Whereas for Giants, they're trying to find opportunities elsewhere. So Nukeslot flashes in, gets the fear, there's the stun, there's the silence. More than enough chain CC to lock down the targets and help secure the kill. A couple of flashes had to be burned, and what I'd love to see is actually a roam from Exileh and Kold down towards the bottom side of the map to try and set this play up. But Giants, they want to be proactive themselves. They're moving into the enemy jungle. They have their eyes set on trying to set up a dive in mid.
Yeah, how about a roam from Ruin here? He's gotten tired of playing the matchup in the top against the Mundo, but Exileh finds an escape route outside the jungle. Giants, what a heavy commitment, and it doesn't pay off.
but they realize that they had the push in bot. Ruin is the one that should lose a little bit of farm off the back of this, but he's been saying relatively even with WhiteKnight, so not too much lost. And I like the movement from Giants. They recognize that Exileh had no flash. They could look to try and get themselves a bit of a return kill, get Betsy back on the map a little bit more. And even though he's not behind on CS, being down a kill will obviously make things a little bit harder for him. So if they could look to try and get him a bit more of an advantage, then it would work out very nicely, but they could not find anything. So Exileh, he walks away safely, and right now the early game relatively even between the both teams.
Yeah, and despite the fact that Unicorns had some losing lane setups to start things off, a couple of good decisions has worked out well for them. We keep saying it, hammering it home, but playing through the mid lane the way to go. Well, they can still play safer elsewhere across the map. And Totoro can continue to rove around and try to clear out vision like he does in that tri-brush. Samux can keep this wave cleared, has to be careful to not tank full channel of the culling from Steeelback. However, Unicorns, they're starting to go for some counter jungle moves of their own. Look at where Exileh and Kold are, just getting a couple of wards down inside of Djoko's jungle.
So as we see just a lot of the players moving around the map, I want to use this as a quick opportunity to highlight some of the different keystones that we are seeing on the board. For any aspiring Udyr players at home, you will notice that he is running Press the Attack. That really does help with his ability to duel in the early game. It adds a lot towards his damage, but it's also very easy to proc. This guy has a lot of inbuilt attack speed due to the use on his passive and how all of his abilities work, and he'll end up building some a little bit later in the game. So some trading down bot.
All right, in the 2v2, Nuxalot goes golden, and it looks like Totoro's going to try to get his ghost on, but the Mega Inferno Bomb comes back. He jukes left because Djoko's coming from the other side. Nuxalot getting body blocked by Steeelback. It looks like Samux and Totoro actually come out ahead.
Just a couple of trade of summoner spells. The risk of an all-in is pretty high, but with the use of the stopwatch, he was able to get out of that situation at Exileh.
Oh, he is so dangerously low, and it's going to be the going gold from Betsy, but dodging away with the flash from Kold's ultimate. Exileh's going to make it out by the skin of his teeth. Man, that was a close call.
Very clutch duel in the middle lane. Both junglers trying their best to intervene. And it was Kold with the ultimate that ends up forcing the flash from Betsy. So small advantage gain for the Unicorns of Love, and now Kold, feeling confident, wants to get a bit of counter jungling off. Will not be able to find it though, unfortunately. So we're seeing a lot of action happen around this middle lane, very much as we expected, Pyra, but nothing quite yet amounting in a huge lead for either side.
No, but for Unicorns, this seems like it's great right now because these guys do want time. You keep talking about the couple of items they're going to need to actually get there. Well, look at the item slots. They're starting to build up the pieces. Now Ruin, he's trying to cut that a little bit down for Kold. Still steals away a couple of his Raptor camps, and despite the fact that Kold has had a rough time in his own jungle, he's actually kept up reasonably well with Djoko.
He's doing a fine job as Samux now, I think he's dead.
Yeah, there was no friends around, and he got surprised by that party.
Did not respect, well actually, they had decent vision in the river. I'm curious as to the path that Djoko took to avoid getting spotted there. Samux thought he was safe, but he was not. Nuxalot didn't even have to use his flash, he just walked up, feared him, and then they had the chain CC in order to find the kill. So this pushing bot lane not working out the way in which Unicorns wanted, but now they're going for dive in mid.
Yeah, Exileh and WhiteKnight, it's a quadruple team, and Betsy, he is going nowhere. Kold picks up the final shot, and it looks like it's going to be a tower in the mid with an army of minions. Unicorns of Love should be able to polish the one off first.
Very clean answer there from the Unicorns of Love. They're looking for that first tower blood, and while Giants can trade it for a Drake, Betsy, he was in a situation that he couldn't really get out of. He had no flash. He wasn't able to react in time to WhiteKnight being missing on the map. And Unicorns, they finally find this early lead that they've been trying so hard to get.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot of back and forth, but to me, this is all about the priorities right here. Giants, they found plays on the bottom, but Samux is basically being sacrificed by the Unicorns of Love here. It's Betsy that's getting beaten down by the Unicorns roaming gang squad.
You got to feel bad for Samux, yet to get a kill so far in the summer split. This is his third game, so we can give him the benefit of the doubt.
He's got some deaths, though.
But yes, with so much focus being put down there, Samux has struggled, but he's been doing pretty well in terms of Farm the Lost Chapter, and the Blasting one are also completed now as Kold makes his way up towards the top side.
All right, Ruin, he's going to get taken down pretty quickly unless he can make his great escape. The flash, and he can't quite make it away, but he does get attack sweep on, a little bit of extra damage. Hextech ultimatum, doesn't matter. He has to throw in the towel because the Mundo was thrown in the cup.
A trade of flashes up in the top side of the map, but it still ends up being a kill for the Unicorns of Love. Kold has been far more active towards the top side. They've been finding a number of advantages, and now Djoko is trying to answer. Is hanging around the middle lane, but there's no tower there. So while Exileh is a little bit overextended, he knows that Totoro is there to back him up as well.
Exileh's had a pretty great start to this game, not without a lot of assistance from Kold, but it's meant that the Unicorns in the mid and the top side of the map have been able to take advantage here. Looks like it's going to be a race for towers, but with the teleport coming in from Ruin, seems like Giants are going to be the ones leading the charge on this one. However, they were down a tower, so now they'll equalize up. We take a look at the gold. It's still in favor of Unicorns by about 800, and it looks like that's about to expend with WhiteKnight.
So slight early game advantage going in the favor of Unicorns. We did see this in their game versus Schalke last week. And Giants, they're no stranger to falling behind in the early game, at least so far this split. Usually we'd see a lot from Djoko. He was the guy that would make a lot of plays happen, and what we have seen him be pretty active towards the bot side and result in an early tower advantage for the side of Giants. They have not been able to stop the pressure that Kold has been investing towards the top side of the map, and that is why they are in this slight goal deficit, and they need to find a way out of the sticky situation that they're in.
Yeah, now Giants, at least verbally, have been fairly confident in their abilities to play the later stages of the game. I mean, they picked up a coach whose moniker is the late game king.
Sure.
Now, I want to ask your professional opinion, Vedi. How do you like this comp in the late stages, as late as it goes on patch 8.12?
So it's difficult to judge because this is quite a unique composition. I must say that I am not fully confident.
We got hot seats over here too.
But what I can say is that Betsy on the Swain, pretty good in the late game. Lucian at 2 items, especially when he gets the Essence Reaver 3rd, he is going to be very relevant. So much mobility against so many of these bruisers, going to be extremely valuable. But you kind of look at the UOL team composition and you're thinking, I can't see anyone on Giants that could really just melt through this Mundo. He is going to be practically unkillable. You then have a secondary tank in the form of Sejuani, so you have this extremely solid front line that has a lot of sticking power too. And then you throw in an Aatrox that has all this damage and really strong skirmish potential in these team fights as well. I find it really challenging to say how these team fights will play out because I mean, both comps are just so novel and unique, but what I can say is, as we already talked about, I think there are scaling elements on the side of Giants. I would give the slight late game over to them, but bruises and tanks are always things that, depending on how they play the late game fights, can really shift a lot and alter how that scaling perception looks.
Yeah, all right, we'll tell you what. Let's rewind it a little bit since we're only 15 minutes into this game anyways, and talk more about the mid game, because it seemed like Unicorns struggled a little bit more during that phase of the game last week.
Well, we might not have time.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a minute. Okay, looks like Ruin thought he was catching WhiteKnight, but instead he's the one getting got, and Djoko comes in too late. So does Steeelback and pretty much the rest of Giants.
Yeah, 4 members of Giants heading towards the bot side of the map. They wanted to try and get themselves a collapse down onto WhiteKnight, but Kold was already on the move. And now look at the rest of the map. Exileh has pushed in mid lane. You have Samux pushing up top. And while Giants are answering the mid wave, there's a Rift Herald down bot lane. So Unicorns have 3 lanes pushing towards Giants. They have a numbers advantage as well. And Giants are struggling to answer, but here's the Fiddle ult.
All right, here it goes. Surprise party. Exileh is going to be able to get out, take some dark flight. And meanwhile, down towards the bottom, Unicorn still looking to collapse on this one. Looks like they're going to get pulled back in for just a second. Kold, Djoko getting yanked all over the place, but they lose a man. Kold goes down. That tower will stand for now.
So things go a little bit wrong there for the Unicorns of Love. Giants with the good defenses. They punish Kold for taking the tower aggro down towards the bottom lane. Betsy successfully locks him up, and they at least stop this 3-wave push from the side of the Unicorns of Love. But Giants are struggling once again in the early game. The Unicorns are moving around the map very fluidly, and while the vision is not the greatest, which is why they're getting caught out every so often, they are at least controlling the majority of the map as we jump into this replay. So let's see how this all sets up. They go for a bit of a dive. They recognize a little too late that Betsy's there, and a really good route from the side of Betsy is able to punish the dive that comes out from the Unicorns of Love. If they got that kill down onto Djoko, it would have resulted in another kill. It's just one of those situations where the Unicorns did what they often do, and they don't factor in all the potential risks that can come into a lot of the plays that they try to make.
This is what I was trying to get at a little bit when the Mundo play interrupted it. The fact that the Unicorns seem to have... Sometimes they kind of lose track of all the variables, and they don't always make the best decisions when the game kind of gets to this point where you want to start roaming around.
I think that's an apt description. It was a big issue for them last week when they tried to dive a Cho'Gath, and then they were surprised by the fact that he had a stopwatch. So it's one of those situations where you're right, they don't usually think through all the variables, and now Exileh, he could be a dead variable.
He certainly could be. It looks like Bloodwell's going to bring him back up, but there's 5 Giants around him, and they're going to smush him into the ground. However, Unicorns are not wasting a moment. They try to answer on the bottom side. It is only the Mundo, but that should be enough to get the tower, and maybe they can march down the mid as well. Unicorns love playing the objective game here.
Think about what Giants invested and what they got in return. A flash was used from the side of Djoko, but yes, they got themselves a kill down onto Exileh, who has both his flash and his TP. In exchange, UOL took their 4th tower of the game. Not only was that global goal to the entire team, but it's now more of the map that they control, and it makes things so much easier to set up for things like Dragon, because they can set up much deeper vision towards the bottom side of the map. So yes, while Giants find themselves a kill, it is Unicorns that still control the game so far.
And crucially, they're able to pick up not just any dragon, but the mountain dragon. Considering they've been trying to play to knock down these towers, they even have a Ziggs for the extra destruction. That's going to aid it immensely. We're 19 minutes into this game, and Unicorns of Love, they're in the lead by about 3,000 gold. Let's see what else they can do, though. Exileh, he might not be out of the woods
Djoko's trying really hard to make Exileh go 1-10. He really wants to back up what he said in the start earlier on. I get it. Exileh, he's respecting them. He has the escapes. Now, Totoro, a little overzealous there.
Yeah. Had his flash. Had to use it.
That's not how you want to be using a flash on Pyke. Have you seen those cool tutorial videos online with Pyke where you can actually stun like up to 4 dummies in a row if you use things like you E and then you flash and then you ult the back target?
Are you saying Giants are dummies?
So much. You get so much. No, I was saying in the practice tool, practice tool, you can stun up to 4 dummies. But if Giants are lining up in a line and then Pyke stuns 4 people...
Well, then they would be dummies.
Yeah, I think it would be... you could make that up.
I mean, hey, you know, like, it's a very specific situation. I'll give you that technically it works.
Point is, losing a flash on Pyke sucks.
Yes,
does have his Ignite, so he still has the ability to burn his targets, which is always an extra bit of valuable damage. But we've got to keep track of all the items that are being completed, Pyre, because we talked a lot about those 2 item spikes for both sides. Things like the Trinity Force, very big for... Ruin on the Camille, also the Black Cleaver on the side of Steeelback for that Lucian. That's a really big item spike for the side of Giants. Speaking of Exileh, he wants to complete that Rage Blade, yet to finish it as he is sitting at level 13.
Yeah, he's gone for the Titanic Hydra first to try and clear away as many minions as he can early on in the game. And Unicorns have definitely committed to this sieging style. Now we'll see if they can keep it going. Nukesalot shows up and he scares the push away. But when they can't go one way, they go another. Unicorns moving towards the mid, collapsing on this one. Let's see if they got the damage. The Eye of Sauron comes out, and so does the Satchel Charge, so good night, Sweet Tower.
Yep. One of the big issues, if you could say, for Giants' composition is that their only real engage is with the Fiddlesticks. They then kind of need a flank with the Udyr if they want to start a 5v5 fight. Now that they've got their items, they might be looking to try and force those fights a little bit more, but because they don't have enough control over the side lanes, they can't actually set up for a successful flank. They haven't been able to contest the minion waves to set up the vision to allow them to play the fights the way in which they want to, which is why we're seeing Unicorns of Love control so much of the map, because it comes from a lot of good vision control and vision denial, not allowing Giants to find those fights and just slowly use their pressure to take down these structures.
Finding it very difficult to really fend off the Unicorns' push now. We have been talking a lot in the ULCS office about the importance of Baron. Medic highlighted it earlier, and how fast it actually is getting taken relative to Spring, how many times it ends up ending the game. Now, we're still a little bit early even by those metrics, but Unicorns, they're clearly seeing the value here, trying to get a lot of vision in the Giants' topside jungle to make sure that they can set up for the Baron themselves.
Well, a lot of wards are coming out from the side of Giants. They do have control over their topside jungle. As you were rightly talking about, a lot of vision coming out from both sides. But for Unicorns, their priority now is getting a push in bot. They've now created a window for themselves, which WhiteKnight would use to move up, ideally towards the middle lane, but because there's no wave there, Unicorns can't really do much with it, so they're just going to keep WhiteKnight down towards the bottom side of the map for the time being, while the rest of the teams just gain control over the waves, continue the back and forth vision control around the Baron area, and you'll slowly start to see these control wards that are sitting in the inventories dwindle down to none.
And this is what you're talking about in the early stages of the game, how Giants are going to have such a hard time killing this Mundo. I mean, let's be honest, everyone has a hard time killing Mundo. But when he doesn't have to be afraid of dying, he really can go wherever he pleases. And right now, that's continually keeping pressure on the bottom side, while all of Unicorns just secure vision near the Baron.
Yes. He's just being obnoxious. That's kind of what Mundo does when he split pushes. Very safe in the current meta. And as you rightly said, very difficult to kill. Rageblade has now been finished for Exileh. He's sitting off on the other side lane as Unicorns playing this kind of 1-through-1 style with a roaming Totoro, looking for potential picks. Giants struggling to find the kind of fight that they want. 5v5 is a good situation for them because of Betsy on the Swain, now having the Zhonya's completed as well. But again, it's all about those flanks which they're not able to find, because this team really struggles to just run at the Unicorns of Love roster when they have two big beefy tanks, and now they're two-manning back.
Yeah, speaking of, one of those big beefy tanks is able to tank up all the damage while Exile's dealing a little bit more, but everyone sees it now. Giants, they're going to try to run at the rest of Unicorns of Love. Let's see if Unicorns decide to get a little frisky with this one. The answer is no. And this is honestly a testament to that improved decision-making. Unicorns, they have made a couple of miscalculations, but nothing so huge that's allowed Giants to swing back into the gold game.
Well, Unicorns need to be careful, because if they stick around too long, their vision control is going to run out, and then Giants can start to look to press in a little bit more. So they should consider resetting soon, buying a lot more control wards, and then they can keep this pressure up around the Baron area. You'll expect to see Mundo go back to base pretty soon as well, and this will be Giants' opportunity to say, okay, we can drop a couple wards, we can push out these waves again, and basically the map resets. This is when you often hear a lot of the pro players talk about, you know, make a play, reset, and then you move back out onto the map, and it's just about restocking your vision, and funnily enough, that's why there's like 10 control wards now in the inventory of the Unicorns.
Yeah. This is actually one of the more standard games I think we've seen since the summer splits actually started back up, and I didn't, if this was back in like spring or maybe last year, I would never have said, oh, that would be the game with Unicorns of Love in it, but they're definitely playing it out pretty well right now, and Giants are trying to set up a bait and trap. It looks like they found the Ziggs. Sir Nuxalot comes in with the surprise party, brings Djoko, and Steeelback is his +1 and 2, and the rest of Unicorns don't want any of that.
So Giants finally find a pick. As UOL was resetting, Giants did not. They lay in wait for an opportunity, and now they're going to gamble on the Baron. Kold is alive, he is full health, but Giants have 5 members.
All right, 5v4. Let's see if the Baron starts to shred down the Giants a little bit too much. Betsy gets pulled back in with the Pyke hook. Ruin lies in wait. Exileh around the side on the other of the Baron pit down to 5,000. We have not seen too many Baron steals here today. Let's see, Giants, they peel away. Look for Kold. Exileh trying to go in. The Baron's going to reset, but the fight is on. And it is a numbers advantage in favor of Giants Gaming right now, and they have found the big fight in the middle. Betsy goes big on that demonic ascension. They find Totoro off the back. Steeelback polishes him off, and it is chaos, but it is chaos that is controlled by Giants Gaming. Samux comes back in, but way too late for that one. It ends up being a 1 for 2. Never mind, 3 trade for Unicorns of Love. They lose out in 3 members.
And Giants finally find the fight that they have been looking for. The worst case scenario for them is to go for the 50-50 Baron. They don't want to do that. Instead, their goal is to kill Unicorns. With Samux dead, the only damage dealer that the Unicorns have is Exileh, and he was on the wrong side of the fight. Now they have used 2 teleports to get back into the pit. Kold is still very far away from this Baron. This could be Giants securing a huge objective.
Ruin popping the blast cone. Only Samux there to try and harass them, but the Baron already down to 4,000. Kold is incoming. They shouldn't see him just yet, but they have to know he's going to be there. Ruin goes around the side. The Baron's still going low, and it looks like Ruin flashing back into the pit, but Kold, he has 1 chance to go over the wall, and Giants are not keen to give it to him, but they're basing some time, and it's going to get stolen! Kold says, nice to meet you, and thank you very much! Down goes Djoko. Unicorns back on the board.
Unicorns with a huge Baron steal, and now the chase is on.
WhiteKnight running rampant through the Giants. He doesn't afraid of anything at this point, and Betsy's going gold, but, well, he wished he was going challenger at this point. Down he goes. 26.5 minutes. Unicorns back on top. Samux has to be careful. He's going to fall here, but he flashes right behind his best buddy. Throws in the Mega Inferno Bomb. Insult to injury, baby. And that's going to be a shutdown. Are we going for the ace? Nukes a lot. He's not quite nuked down to 0, but I don't think they care. There's the ace.
Unicorns find a clean 5-0 off the back of Giants, starting the Baron. Samux still yet to get a kill in Summer Split, but Unicorns don't care. They have the Nexus in their eyes, and Pyre, they're looking to win the game.
Djoko, last man standing, trying to defend while his teammates coming back up. He goes around the side, but the Unicorns might be battered. They might be bruised, but they never say die, and after a 0 and 2 week, they've set their sights on the Nexus and take down Giants. And that man on your screen said it right. Who's going to be the reason they win? Well, guess what? Feed the Exileh. It seems to work.
Oh, my word. Kold was definitely the man to win that game. A lot of the game looked very good for Unicorns. A lot of it. They controlled the side lanes extremely well. They dictated the pace of the vast majority of the game. Things kind of went a little bit awry around the Baron after Samux got himself picked off. You could sit there and see a situation which was, oh no, Unicorns now, they can best hope is to try and steal the Baron rather than go for a fight. They went for the fight anyway, which was the worst possible thing you could have done because you gave Giants everything they needed to actually secure the Baron themselves, and then Giants gambled. They made a gamble, they didn't need to, and that is when they got punished. That smite battle was so close, but it was Kold that ended up coming out on top. And off the back of a single Baron, the game was over.
Yeah, I think you made an understatement there, man. That was not an oh no moment. That was oh no, and then Kold just says, oh yes. And he manages to steal it away. That has got to feel so bad for Giants Gaming to have the Baron stolen right out from under them when they were finally starting to turn their fortunes around. But Unicorns, when it counts the most, execute, and this is the team that fans have been waiting to see.
Well, a little rough around the edges, definitely looking at that Baron and thinking, all right, Unicorns, you probably didn't need to go for that fight. Giants were trying really hard to bait you, and you kind of fell for the trap. But yes, there are a lot of positives to take away from the Unicorns. I did think that their early game, for the most part, was very good. Even though Udyr was kind of running rampant in Kold's jungle, he wasn't falling too far behind. He was still pretty proactive in terms of ganking for the mid lane. Exileh was still very relevant for the vast majority of the game. And while he was getting killed off in his side lane, the rest of the team was still finding opportunities to punish that from the side of Giants.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at that replay of the Baron steal, brought to you by Acer Predator.
So, let's have a look back and see how this all happens. It gets down to about 2,000 HP. Ruin tries to stop the dive coming in from the Unicorns, but that's not enough. Now it gets extremely low here. Giants decide to commit. 92 HP smite from the side of Djoko, and then Kold finishes it off. Was very, very close. A tiny bit more damage from Giants would have been the Baron, and this game would have gone on for longer. I don't know if Giants get away cleanly from that Baron, but after the Baron went down, yeah, this was just kind of the aftermath. There was the carnage of the Unicorns kind of stampeding their way through the Giants squad.
Yeah, at that point, we have seen so many Barons pretty much end the game. It definitely wasn't the cleanest one we've seen taken, but at the end of the day, the Unicorns were able to make it happen. And I think that rivalry that we got brewing between Kold and Djoko, well, the Unicorns jungler's got something to hold high right now.
Yes, he certainly does. We did say that Medic said this morning that we're yet to see a Baron steal in the summer split. Well,
now we have.
That makes it one. Only 17 more to go to reach the record of last split.
We've got a long split ahead of us.
Yes, we certainly do. We're only in week 2, and we still got another 9 games left this week, Pyra.
That is very true. Now, remember to hit us up with your player of the game on Twitter at our poll at LOL Esports. Now, your options are Kold, Exileh, and Totoro. I think there's definitely some good choices in that one.
I feel like it kind of has to be Kold, considering he did win them the game.
I want Exileh to have a player of the game because it's always like, oh, man, he's either feeding or he's doing well. I just want to give him some props. He did well.
Sure. He got fed too. He went 6-2-2. Admittedly, 2 of those kills were picked up at the very end. I'll give him a pass for now. I'm hoping to see more.
That's like a B+ from Vedius.
I'll give him a B+. Yeah.
All right, well, that's good enough. I was a B student. Now, in Insta-Lock during tomorrow's Ready Check, we're going to challenge Vedius and Foxtrap to build some team comps from the best and the worst in League of Legends to send us 5 champions you want to see at LOL Esports using the hashtag ReadyCheck. I think you can make some interesting comps, Vedius.
I'm sure we will, but we're going to go to a break now, Pyra.
Absolutely. We're going to soon break down the battle of supports as Dorscarin and Jack Troll face off in Vitality versus Rocket. Before that, we're going to hear from Kold, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.